Now we get to see how this goes. All right. Just making sure it goes up. All right. Well, I didn't get to do the Thursday stream. I think I did one last week, but I didn't do one the week before. And I need to get back into the habit of that. And I will be streaming a game. I don't know if I'm going to be streaming one tonight or next time. But this is something I went ahead and said I would take a look at. So I'm going to take a look at it. I was thinking about doing like a full standalone video, but I've already got 2 of them in the queue, and this one's got a limited time because it's on a Kickstarter. And so I figured, hey, I'll take a look at it live, just like I do with my quick looks. It's just, this time it's just for this one RPG. So, yeah, I don't know. After this, I may stream a game, may not, depending on how much time I have. I've got to get a couple more things recorded tonight. I have Let's Play for my second channel that I'm actually finishing up pretty soon. It's not the Temple of Elemental Evil one. It's the... I got another one that I'm going to post after the Temple of Elemental Evil one. But I'm actually almost done with it before I'm finished with the Temple of Elemental Evil one. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, this is a basic and generic role-playing game. It is currently up on Kickstarter. It's by Josiah Mork. It is exactly what it says on the tin, basic and generic role-playing game. They asked me to take a look at it. It was a while back, and they sent me this PDF of the demo. Wanted to hear my thoughts whenever I got the chance, or any good publicity they can lend going to the campaign. I don't know if there's going to be good publicity, because quite frankly, I haven't taken a look at it yet. So it remains to be seen whether this game is really good or just kind of meh. So we will see. But hey, any publicity is good publicity. I should put my usual disclaimer up. Backing a crowdfunding campaign should be done only at your own risk. Doing so is no guarantee of receiving a product. Mentioned here is not an endorsement, but is for informational purposes only. That having been said, they've already reached their rather modest goal, and they have about 23 days left to go as of this recording. So we shall see. My first bit of feedback is the name. Kind of not digging it. I'm kind of not digging the name, but you do you. I mean, I play a generic role-playing system called GURPS, and the name on that isn't great either. so I guess basic and generic role-playing game is all right. Just from the view of the layout, I'm liking the layout. I'm liking the easy index pages, especially if you're going to get a printout on this. So that's cool. Got a nice font, got a nice put together. Nice, easy illustration in the back that you don't need to focus on, but that lends some character to the page. I like that. So let's take a look at the actual content here. It's got introduction. I guess this is PC is going to be like character creation, I guess. Items, rules, that's the core rules, GMing, and the character sheets. But then you've got second class rules introduction. No idea what that is. We will find out. Crafting. So there's crafting rules. New locations. We'll have to see how that goes. Vehicles. Because it is a generic role-playing game system, it will span multiple genres. Sheets, I'm presuming for... Well, there's another thing of sheets. We'll have to see. Then third class rules, introduction, leveling up, bonus dice. We'll have to see how this goes. I would urge a more descriptive chapter headings, although I guess, that's neither here nor there. This is only 56 pages long, so this shouldn't be too much of a problem. So here we go. Welcome to the World of Adventure. This guidebook is a standard rule set to introduce new players to role-playing games. The rules included in this guide are intentionally broad and applicable to all genres, including fantasy, Wild West, sci-fi, or playing out any manner of novels, movies, or other fandoms. That's good. That's good. I do like some generic role-playing games. My favorite is GURPS, but I'm also starting to look into Savage Worlds. I've had it recommended to me several times. I haven't had a chance to actually play it, but I've heard it's good. I've also heard another one. Another good one is Cypher System, but I haven't looked at that. Mostly because I'm not a huge fan of Monty Cook games, but that's just personal preference. Anyway, let's take a look at this. You got your basic introduction for role-playing games. You got it's a standard tabletop gaming game, game master and a player, which is good because believe me, I've got some reviews coming up of some rules light / narrative games, and they should have been out this week, but I kind of got swamped with something, and they'll probably be out next week. I am quickly learning that I really am not a big fan of pure storytelling games. Like, I like rules light, but there comes a point at which, like, when they start talking about, like, everybody's a player, there's no GM, that kind of departs too far from GMing. So the fact that this is a standard tabletop gaming is actually really a breath of fresh air for me, because I've been reviewing stuff that's not standard all week. Unlike most games, role-playing is just the generic role-playing games, ending the game when they have accomplished a minor victory in the plot. These may include defeating a boss, etc. Each game lasts from 1 to 4 hours, depending on the size and complexity of the challenge, or until you run out of time. Alright, you need notebook and pencils, pretty standard, set of standard polyhedral dice, or an app simulation. Okay, it's pretty standard. A paper, whiteboard, or chalkboard, or other surface with a grid of hexagons or squares. I'll be interested to see whether it uses hexagons, squares, or both. A set of plastic miniatures, cardstock, or even slips of paper used to keep track of characters, locations, and music movement. That tells me that it's probably going to be a heavy tactical / placement style combat system, which is understandable. Copy of this manual, a copy of the character sheet in the back of each book for each player. If this whole thing is only 56 pages at the end of the day, I don't know if that's going to be great, but I mean, there comes a point at which you don't really need more filler. But if you're going for a multi-genre role-playing game, we'll see how it goes. All right, each player beside the GM creates character. Okay. GM produces the foundations of the world. That's pretty standard. Tips on gameplay. Players and GMs will need to familiarize themselves with the ideas of what each character does in relation to the genre. That's pretty standard. Be involved. Role-playing games are intentionally open-ended. Adventures driven by the whims and decisions of the player, the characters, and participating in them. This is useful tips for any tabletop role-playing game, really. Therefore, players must participate. Don't lead them by the hand. Thank God. It actually gets that out of the way real quick. Listen and respond. GM presents a situation. Players should respond to the decision so that their actions contribute to the story. This is all very basic guidelines. I understand that. That's cool. Bend the rules. The rules should never inhibit a great story or exciting moment. It's just standard stuff. All very good so far, but not particularly focused on this one. But I will admit, for a new player, if I had to pick basic ideas to introduce players to tabletop role-playing in general, those rules would not be a bad start. All right, so what does this system use? Oh, crap, it uses D10 and a D12. All right. So a player describes their action, standard. Roll a D10 or a D12 for a magic skill. I'm not a big fan of ones that use different dice for different things, but we'll see. I mean, aside from AD&D, because that use different dice for everything. But yeah, not a big fan of using different dice, but we'll see. If the result is greater than the skill level, this result is a failure. So it's a D10 roll under system. If the result is greater than the skill... Wait. All right, editor, where are you? If the result is greater than the skill level, the result is a failure. If the result is greater than the skill level, it is a success. Failure equals 0, success equals dice result. Editor, this makes no sense. Get your editors on it. This needs to be rewritten. Add modifiers from characteristics or items. Compare the final result to any minimum success. GM tells whether the roll achieves its goal. All right. But this needs to be rewritten because this makes no sense. Attacker declares his or her target and makes a skill roll based on the kind of attack. Strength skill roll may only target adjacent enemies. Accuracy skill roll. I'm presuming these are going to be described in the next chapter. Magic skill roll may target any enemy within 10 tiles. So there's a hard 10 tile limit, which will limit the range on things, which is actually good. Because I have been running a lot of D&D lately, like both old school and new school. And the sheer number of ranged characters I have means that my battle maps have just grown absolutely huge. So having a hard cap of 10 tiles, while not specifically useful for ranged people, will be useful for the DM. Defender may block or dodge. Block, make a resistance roll. Failure, suffer full damage. Success, reduce damage by the final result of the resistance skill roll. So this is similar in a way to GURPS, where you've got like different active and passive defenses, except this one you choose one or the other. Dodge, you make an agility roll. Failure, suffer full damage. Success, it was 0 enemies adjacent. MS4. I'm presuming that this gets explained earlier or later. Is the MS the minimum success roll? So MS is like your difficulty class. Alright. Characters take full damage if they fail to meet the minimum success, and 0 damage if they meet it. So it's all or nothing. Defender may counterattack if they are within range. Players take turns after the GM and in descending order of agility skill level. So instead of randomized initiative, it looks like it's fixed. May move up to 3 tiles, which I presume is just your basic, everybody has the same movement rate. May perform up to 2 actions, skill rolls, or attacks. We'll find out later. But it borrows the more modern, you can move before, after, or in between their actions. So that's good. That's good. All right. So let's take a look at character creations. This is not helpful. This is not helpful. I know you want it to be helpful, but this is not helpful. You kind of want to get like a whole sheet here. Players decide on 3 aspects of their hero to create a character. First, he or she creates a name for their character. The name can be anything. Players are encouraged to be imaginative if possible. Okay, standard naming conventions. Each character has 14 skills they use to interact with a game world. Additionally, characters have 65 skill points to invest in skills. Each point invested in the skill raises the skill level by 1 to a maximum of 10. So, hard cap of 10 in a skill. That means you can start with 6 of them fully capped out, maybe, of the 14. So you can have like half of... That sounds a little bit off. That sounds a little bit off. Unless there's 14 skills out of a larger thing. But being able to almost cap out like half of your skills right off the bat sounds a little bit broken. Well, but we'll see. We'll see. So you got accuracy. That's to hit targets. Agility. Endurance. Finesse, healing, knowledge. Some of these look like skills and some of these look like traits. So there's no difference between attributes and skills in this game. Magic, mechanics, hold on. Gotta mute my mic so I don't cough. Is everybody able to hear me all right? I just want to make sure that my audio is good because I've been playing around with mics. I got a new lavalier mic and I was trying to make it work. So I want and it didn't work, but it didn't work on this, but it worked on what I need to use it for, so that's good. Notice the ability to observe people and details. So perception. Persuasion. So notice maybe perception, although that may harken to some other game systems. All right. Players may also choose to invest their skill points into their maximum health. Okay, so if that gives another way to put those 65 skill points somewhere. All right, good. Thanks. I appreciate it. I know this is going to be a little bit boring, but I'm examining this system that's up on Kickstarter. I put the link in the description. If you want me to post it in the chat, I can do that too. Before we continue onward, this is what, page 8? Let me take a look down here at the character sheet so I know what to look at. So this is your character sheet for this game. I haven't got to what these are presented as yet. And this character sheet is all over the place, isn't it? So there's no difference between attributes and skills in this game. It's all one thing. And they are hard capped at 14. Although magic seems, I guess magic magic is like unique. It just seems a little bit inconsistent, and that's kind of like poking me in the order complex, just because that magic seems a little inconsistent. You got armor, left hand, right hand, and equipment. So I'm assuming you've got like slots in this game. General inventory and then backstory. Backstory is huge. Inventory is not huge. I feel like this character sheet needs work unless there's a very limited amount of material you can get. Let's go back to where I was. It's page 8 of 56, and some of this is background information. So I'll say, okay, so we just covered skills and attributes, or skills because there are no attributes. So this is characteristics. After creating the statistics of the character, players decide on the personality of the character. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a minimum because it doesn't say there's a minimum here. So you have 65 skill points to invest in 14 skills, but there's no minimums and maximums listed right here. Maybe there are later. It is a D10 to deal with stuff. And I'm assuming it's D10 roll under, but we'll have to figure that out in the next section. Anyway, these personality traits are called characteristics, and they represent a character's professions, attitudes, tendencies, and quirks. So it looks like you gain 8 characteristics divided into levels of minor, medium, and major, which is what it showed on the sheet. There was that big section, and you could get like 4 or whatever minor, and only a couple medium, and then like 1 major. And the alignments of positive and negative. For each positive characteristic taken in one level, a negative characteristic must also be taken in that level. So so it's 2 of each? Characteristics are limited to 4 minor, 2 medium, and 2 major. All right. So here's your positive characteristics. Name, level, effect. So these are like kind of like feats almost, except not really. They split the difference. Like I've seen systems that do stuff like this. This is all very straightforward. Lucky looks like it might be broken in relation to the other stuff, just because re-rolling a skill roll before resolving its effects results in a roll equal to the difference in the difference in averages between success rates. So if you've got like a D20 and you figure an average success rate of like 1 and 2, then advantage effectively gives you the equivalent of +5. For this one, since it's D10, actually that may not be so broken, because if it's D10, then that difference is only +2.5, and most of these get like +2 situationally or +1 flat. So actually, lucky is a little bit less powerful than I thought it would be in terms of mathematics. And I may not be explaining that more clearly, but if you know mathematics, you know what I'm talking about. It's not too bad. It's like a combination of like skills and feats, with minor stuff being super minor. Yeah, lucky is only minor, so I guess that's not broken. Major stuff would be like +2 on successful resistance rolls, +2 on successful finesse rolls. So these are like, I guess they're skills. +1 persuasion skill level and +2 on successful persuasion rolls. That's nice. Again, this is not helpful. Putting a part of the sheet faded out. I know you're trying to do art. I would rather see like properly purchased art than like just a portion of the character sheet there. Or if you're going to do it, and this is just from a design perspective. Don't take this as me trashing it, because this is what I've noticed. If you've got if you got character creation, you're going to want to put like, and you're going to put some representation of the sheet. I see what's being done here is it's only that part of the sheet that's relevant to the topic at hand. And that's okay, but you might want to take the time, and this is because I'm pretty sure that the designer of this is going to watch this video. If I was designing it, I would put like a copy of the entire character sheet up here, like between the sections, like in facing pages. So you got your character sheet here and then the explanation here. And then do this thing where you cut out the relevant part and put it by the piece. And if you're going to do that, show the whole relevant part, not just a part of it. I know it looks kind of nice faded out like that, but it's just more helpful to somebody that's trying to wrap their mind around it. And like take this part down here that shows like what the traits are and put it, I guess these are two facing things, so it is facing, but I would put it like your eyes are drawn to the top of the page a lot of times. I mean, that's just stuff that I was told when I was designing stuff. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. That's what I would do. You don't have to do it, but that's what I would do. And here's your negative traits. So these are to balance out the positive traits. Ouch, cautious. Will never be the first character to attack an enemy, and that's a minor? Oh, wow. Ouch. Depending on the genre, that can be brutal. Minor, dislike and distrust by established authorities. That's understandable. What's a major negative? Arcane inane. Magic items do not respond or activate. Ouch. Well, depending on the genre, yeah, but ouch. So, like, the drawbacks, some of them are pretty brutal. Carries a max of 5 items, excluding equipped, for fragile. That's alright. Pacifist. Cannot counterattack. That's another ouch. So far we've got, like, skills / attributes all in one. And then we've got these traits, some of which are good, some of which need a little bit of work on balance. And then this is the item system. One moment. Okay, I was right. There are 2 hand slots, an armor slot, or the equipment slot of the character sheet. So you've got like almost like a CRPG setup here, where you can only have like 4 items equipped. These items are intended to function in all variety of settings, just like this guidebook. Okay, here's what we got. All weapons break at some point. I actually kind of like that. It looks like a weak RPG attempt. It looks like it needs work. And I'm going to say it like this. The reason I'm saying that is not because I want to do this dude any special favors, but it needs work. There are a couple editing. There's one major editing issue I've identified. I'm already like a quarter of the way through. I have seen published role-playing games, not Kickstarter style stuff, but published hardback role-playing games that had worse systems than this. I'm not saying this is a great system. This is I gotta be honest, it's kind of mediocre so far. But I've seen worse. I've reviewed worse. Well, I don't know if I've reviewed worse, because if it's terrible, I just won't cover it. That's one thing some of my viewers have noticed. If it's just garbage, I'm not going to cover it. This is not garbage, but it needs work. It needs a lot of work. I'm kind of wincing at this. I do like some of the concepts, like breakability, like weapon ruination. I like that, but it seems like some of this stuff would be better conceived of in like a computer role-playing game. However, this is pretty simple. Editing can be fixed. The mechanics are real lightweight. I agree with you there. Mechanics are real lightweight, what I've seen so far. Yeah, it doesn't say. It doesn't say. Like you can. It doesn't say that there's any minimums. So I'm presuming, like, do you have to take an attribute or trait? There's no minimums listed, at least so far. I'm going to presume that let's take a look at the trait. Let's take a look at the attributes that you're getting. Not attributes, the skills, because there's no attributes, it's all skills. Some of these are pretty much mandatory. Like accuracy. If you want to hit a target, it requires an accuracy check. So if you want to use a ranged weapon, you have to take accuracy. If you want to dodge things, I think you have to take agility. But there's other things like knowledge. That's like a general thing. Ability. If you have to take, or healing, you have to take healing, or you're not going to be able to heal. However, depending on the genre, well, I mean, mechanics can be used for like mechanical devices, even in like a medieval setting or whatever. And that's also your crafting skill, but you can get by without that. You can't get by without agility. So these, not all of these skills are equal by a long shot. Some of them, I understand that they're trying to get away from like the attributes and skills kind of thing, but some of these skills are completely irrelevant to some characters, and some of them are pretty much relevant for every character. Yeah, that needs to be fixed. You also need to put a minimum amount that you have to put, because right now it just says, there's a maximum of 10 levels. And due to the way that dice testing works, I'm presuming 10 levels is actually usually an automatic success, maybe. I don't know. That maybe not. But each point invested in a skill will raise it by 1 level. So it's linear advancement. And you can max almost half of the skills right out of the bat. Yeah. I will say this: the guy that designed this is a college student, and I'm presuming that they're still like relatively low end in there. They need to give some thought, on basic game design. Put some minimums in there. Again, because otherwise you're going to have somebody that's just going to pop it in like 3 things and then throw everything else into health. A player's character's maximum health starts at 5, which is not great, and increases by 1 for each skill point invested in it. The reason I say it's not great without looking into anything is because if you want to play a bruiser, what you do is you got 65 skill points. You throw 10 into strength, that leaves you 55. You throw 10 into healing, that leaves you 45. You throw 10 into endurance or whatever, or vigor, because that is the resistance mechanic. That leaves you, 45? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 10 into resistance. That'll give you, 35. And then all of the rest into health, and it gives you, 40 hit points. That's more than 8 times, anybody who doesn't invest in hit points, in health. And I haven't even looked at the combat system yet. But just the differences there. So you're going to I would put some minimum requirements in that. Maybe bust them out into 2 things. Again, it says you gain 8 characteristics. I think you have to take all of them, but it doesn't necessarily say that. Because it says characters are limited to, and then it gives you the breakdown. So if they have to take it, say a character must take 8 characteristics. I could understand that. Let's continue. I actually don't have a problem with the traits themselves, though. The traits themselves look all right. They need a bit of rebalancing, but otherwise they look okay. Yeah. It's like you're gonna need minimums and maximums, especially on the first ones. Well, they've got maximums. The problem is the maximums are 10, and it's like a roll 10 or less on a D10. See what I'm saying? So if your maximum is 10, and you got to roll under your skill level on a D10 to succeed. So that is kind of broken there too. Anyway, let's take a look at this stuff before I get hung up on that. Now, I'm not saying that there's no potential here. There's some potential here. It needs a lot of work, though. I will say one thing. Aside from the botched editing in a couple places, the writing is all right. All right. Items have breakability. When a weapon or piece of armor has been involved in a particularly heavy hit, the player owning it rolls a d10. If the d10 is equal to or less than the numerator top number of the breakability, the item breaks. So the breakability is like 2 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 4 out of 10. I like that. Explosives, 10 out of 10. That means as soon as an explosive goes off, it breaks. I kind of like this, though, the breakability thing, because it kind of matches... Like, I'm a fan of equipment wastage in RPGs. I am, because I like when my players have to... I kind of get tired of players getting like a sword or something and then keeping that sword for like 10 levels. You know? So I do like equipment wastage type rules. And this is not too far off the mark on that, although... If you look at it, if it's involved in a particularly heavy hit, you might want to define that a little bit better. I mean, I know it's supposed to be up to the GM, but some GMs will going to be real a-holes about that. And some of these hits, like these hit rates, like an axe, with a 3 of 10, that's like a 30% chance to break every time it's kind of like subjected to that. Range. All equipment only affects the character with the item equipped. All weapons may only attack enemies in adjacent squares or hexes unless specified as range. Ranged weapons may... weapons. Editor. Another... editor. Weapons has an O. May target opponents up to 10 hexes away. Yeah, I know, but there's like a difference with that. You take care... in HEMA without... with never broken a sword. This is the difference on that. Okay. You fought in HEMA and you've never broken a sword. You take care of your equipment, though, right? And you haven't, like, fallen down a cliff and, you know, dropped your sword into a bunch of, like, broken, jagged rocks, though, right? So that's what I mean by equipment wastage. I don't mean, like, you attack your enemy and, oh, my God, my weapon's broken. I mean, you know, you keep your weapons good, you keep your weapons, you know, you keep your equipment decent. I'm not talking about that for equipment wastage. I like the equipment wastage in the terms of like if you're walking down like a dungeon corridor and you get hit by a stone trap and like a big stone like just comes down and breaks your arm and whatever, your equipment might suffer too, you know. And they did have alternate rules for that in like 2nd edition, and a lot of people didn't use them simply because it doesn't happen that much. But I like the potential for it to happen, you know. And the way they do it in Castles and Crusades is the way I like it, because if you say that you're taking care of your equipment, then you avoid the wastage, you know. But there's still the potential there. For if you're walking along and you've been through a rough, you know, been slogging through swamps, you know, and this, that's why I would rather see more details on when a weapon or piece of armor has been involved in a particularly heavy hit. I would like to see more details on that. This leaves it up to the GM's direction, but I would like to see more guidance on that. You know, because otherwise it sounds like just if you hit, then it's going to break. And that's... I can tell you what, I've used weapons that have broken before. Like, not in historical martial arts. I was probably using them wrong. But I've broken legit weapons before by accident. I can tell you right now, I was probably using it very wrong. But, yeah, encumbrance with breakages and such. I like. Well, it's like this. I like to give my characters in a D&D game. I like to give my characters reason to carry stuff aside from breakage. Because you can lose stuff, and the way I do that is I'm kind of an a-hole DM. Sometimes I'll have stuff disarm the players Like use the disarm action and then like kick the weapon down a hole or something. So then if they've got a spare weapon, then they can grab it real quick, you know? Stuff like that's good, but this is not at all what he's saying here. It's not always. So that needs a little bit of work. It needs a little bit of work. I like the idea behind it, but it needs work. Now, I'm saying that a lot with this game, aren't I? Okay, ranged is just a tag. I'm presuming starter just means you can start with it. Let's take a look down here. So some of these weapons are two-handed, so they're like tags. Magic ice. Wait, what? Okay, so because it's a generic one, you've got something just called like magic electrical as a weapon, but it can be a tome, an enchanted stone, a tech implant, etc. Whatever. Those are just examples. So you've got like a knife. A knife is like the generic category, and then these are the specific examples. So ranged weapon. These are very generic. Yeah. It's not like it'll break in a few hits. But it's like, if you get into... and it's like, I don't like equipment wastage where you gotta track, like, the hit points of individual things. That's the other thing, man. But I like the idea that you might want to carry it for different damage types, or if you get subjected to something that'll cost it. Or they'll cost you your weapon, you know? Like you know, getting disarmed on a cliffside. I do a lot of verticality in my dungeons. If you haven't, or I try to, so somebody will get disarmed and then their weapon will fall in like some place they really don't want to mess with getting it out of at first. All right, so these are just tags that you add to weapons, starting with items. Certain items are specified as starter. When creating a character, players may select one starter weapon, one starter armor, and one starter piece of equipment. So instead of having like, I like this because a lot of times I'll be looking at a role-playing game and it'll say just pick what. It'll either have them completely enumerated or just say pick what's appropriate to your character, but not give any like ideas. This kind of splits the difference, gives you ideas. So you can start with a weapon, an armor, and a piece of equipment. Weapon's pretty straightforward. It uses very, very generic type stuff. It looks like, and I'm okay with that because I've played. Hell, where is it? Tunnels and Trolls. Tunnels and Trolls does the same thing where you've got like a weapon category and then a specific examples. That's okay. Armor. So here's how it goes, though. The problem is I'm looking at some of these stats, and I'm still uncertain as to how the actual dice rolls go because that initial explanation of the rules was so messed up that I don't know what they mean. But it looks like it's just like a contested roll, and then the difference is what damage you do. So if you do like a spear, you make your skill check +3 because of combat strength. What does it mean, combat accuracy? Is that for ranged? Let me take a look up here. I'm presuming this is for the ranged section. But they don't say ranged. I guess there's supposed to be a column header here. But there's not, so he needs to fix that. Anyway, what I was going to say. Yeah, it looks like if you had a spear, you would make a melee attack. You would add 3 to your skill roll and compare it to your target's resistance check and +4 if they had heavy armor. That's straightforward. I don't know if I like it, but it's straightforward. Yeah. Well, here's the thing though. Damage, according to the upper rules, damage is tied in with your skill check. So it's like Tunnels and Trolls where you make a roll. Yeah, same here. But I would love OSR stuff, you know. Yeah, these need a lot of work, man. Let's take a look at the dual wielding. I'll take a look at the. Well, first of all, let's take a look at equipment. Equipment, you got usage rules, starters, and then just a description. That's straightforward. I don't need to go into that. Dual wielding. I'll tell you what. Let me see if they got... when a character has 2 weapons equipped, the character suffers -1 resistance skill levels, -2 finesse skill levels, and -3 subtlety skill levels. But I'm presuming you add both equipments, both weapons, stat bonuses. So you get -1 resistance, -2 finesse, and -3 subtlety. But subtlety and finesse aren't combat skills. Finesse is like picking locks, and subtlety is sneaking. So really, you're only looking at resistance skill. Yeah, the starter equipment section is good. Finding new items. No immediate mechanics exist for purchasing items. It's up to the DM, basically. Throwing items. It is solely up to the DM to determine when, if, and how far characters may throw in items. All right, that's okay. I'm disappointed, though. I am disappointed because the true test of a combat system is the grappling rules, and I do not see grappling rules nor mounted combat rules. Although I will say again, this is just a preview. They're still working on it. So they need a lot of work. Gotta admit, they need a lot of work. All right, gameplay. On their turn, players perform 2 actions and move up to 3 spaces. To perform an action, players explain what they want to do. This may be investigating strange marks on a wall, attacking an enemy, etc. Do the actions have to be different, or can you say I attack like 2 different targets? All right, magic rolls. When performing a magic roll, characters roll a d12 instead of a d10. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Let's see if they explain the skill check better here. To perform a skill roll, players roll a d10 and compare it to their skill level in the prescribed skill. If the result is higher than the skill level, the action is a failure. If the result is less than or equal to the skills level, the action is a success. Okay, so this is basically what I thought it was. It was just so messed up in that first explanation up there that I wasn't sure. So it's a roll under. It's a roll under. It's just like proficiencies in second edition. The only exceptions are magic rolls, which for some reason use a d12. This provides a level of unpredictability. A roll of 11 or 12 will always result in a failure, as the magic skill level may never be greater than 10. So the intention of this game... that tells me that the whole intention of this game is to max out those 6 skills at 10. It's like the difference between playing Morrowind and playing Skyrim. And Elder Scrolls fans will know what I'm talking about here. In Morrowind, you always have a chance to miss. Even if you're, Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They should use the magic rolls for all the rules, because to give it so there's always a chance to miss. Because otherwise, you're just going to want to max out 6 skills, then you're going to have a half-baked one that you can use from time to time. Yeah, just use D12s all around. That's a good idea. It's not a bad idea at all. Either that or cap out skills at 8, but I don't know. 8, like I'm not a big fan of D10 rules in general, so I never got into storyteller games because it just doesn't offer enough granularity for me. I understand it. I mean, I understand the desire to keep D10s, to keep to a simple D10, but yeah, you want to be special. Use D12s versus a 10-point skill system. That would be awesome. On a successful skill roll, players add any relevant modifiers from characteristics or items. In some cases, a successful roll means characters automatically achieve whatever they are hoping to. They discover the meaning of scratches, damage an enemy, rejuvenate an ally, or persuade a merchant. In other cases, however, the GM may require the character rolls at least a certain number to achieve their goal. Alright, so this is kind of different. Alright. This needs to be rewritten, because what we're looking at here is a rule that directly contradicts the rule up here. So here's what you got. You can perform a skill roll. and roll under your skill in that roll. However, and be a success. However, the GM may require the character rolls at least a certain number to achieve their goal. That's the minimum success. So if I wrote, and let's take a look up here because it told me earlier some example MS. Yeah, MS4, MS9, and MS12. So what that means is there's no MS. There's no way to roll a 12 on a 10-sided die. So you make an agility roll. So your agility is, let's say your agility is 10 for all purposes. That means any roll 10 or below on a D10 is going to be a success. However, you also have to roll at least a 9 or a 12 if 2 or 3 enemies are around you. So you would have to roll like the dice itself would have to roll under your. I don't know if I'm getting this right because it's not well described. But you've got to roll a 10 or under to dodge 3 enemies and yet roll a 12. So that tells me that you then add any bonuses, such as if you had a trait that gives you a plus to dodge. Let's see if you got a plus to dodge. Yeah, +2 on successful agility rolls with acrobat, because dodge is just an agility roll. So if you have you roll a 10. Yeah. Yeah, but you check the bonus after you tell whether it's a success or not. So if you're blocking, you make an agility roll. You compare it to your agility skill. If you fail, you suffer full damage, after which you add the bonuses and then try to get the minimum success. So you've got to roll high while rolling under, which is a good idea. But I can see where some people, where that needs to be explained a bit more. Yeah, it needs to be explained a little bit more. I mean, I get it. I get what you're saying there. In some skill rolls, players need to beat another NPC creature. You always have a chance to miss, but not to hit. Yeah, it is poorly written. Yeah. It is a little bit poorly written. It needs to be modified, I believe. In some skill rolls, players need to beat another NPC creature or character's roll rather than an MS. Examples are when a character is running to escape, chasing wolf, or when a character is arm wrestling with a rival. In these circumstances, both parties make skill rolls. Whoever rolls higher achieves their intended goal and defeats the other. Failed rolls are considered 0, and any ties cause the parties to reroll. So yeah, that's exactly what it is. Roll high while rolling under. Combat is a common situation when exploring. Players must be within range of an opponent. If the opponent is adjacent, the character makes a strength roll. If the opponent is within 10 spaces and the character is throwing an item or using a ranged weapon, they make an accuracy roll. So again, if you want to attack anybody, you have to put points into strength. Alright, so on a successful roll, the character adds any modifiers from equipped weapons and characteristics. The defender now has 2 options. He can either choose a resistance roll or agility roll. And then it becomes basically a contested roll. Well, it becomes a contested roll if you're trying to just block it. If you do a successful resistance roll, you roll your resistance, and then you subtract the roll's result from the attack and suffer the damage. The result is damage. So if you got armor that gives you +3 resistance, you still have to beat your initial roll, and then you add your resistance from the armor if you succeed, and then subtract that from the attack roll, and the difference is the damage you take. That's like the Tunnels and Trolls combat system, where you roll your combat adds versus your enemy's combat total, and then whoever gets the highest roll, you do the difference in damage. And then dodging just removes things completely. So if you wanted to min-max, dodging sounds like the way to go. Let's take a look at counterattack. A counterattack is performed exactly as a normal attack, except it may only be performed against the original attacker and does not trigger additional counterattacks. So every single round, you're going to have multiple rolls. Go, I attack you, roll to hit, they roll to dodge, whether they're successful or not. If they're alive, then they roll their counterattack. They roll to hit, then you roll to dodge or block every single time. Every single time. What that means is that combat's going to be over in terms of rounds very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. You know what this reminds me of? I was playing Disgaea the other day. Except yeah, you should have just made a source book for the OSR, because this kind of... Yeah, this needs a lot of work. Dying. When a character... I mean, we're almost halfway done. We're almost halfway done. No, we're not. Halfway would be 28 pages in. What's the healing rules? A bleeding out character cannot perform any actions, of course. Characters have 3 turns to roll lower their damage below their max health, or else they'll die. If a character spends all 3 turns, the character dies. A dead character is unplayable. I'd beg to differ on that. I got a character killed, and I ended up just making Weekend of Bernie style comments the entire game. I was kind of an a-hole. Every time the GM would ask what I would do, I'd be like, I rot. I kind of flop around uselessly. All right. Healing. When a character has suffered damage, he or she will need healing. To heal another character, they must be adjacent. If the character is bleeding out, ceases to bleed out. But is there any way to heal yourself? There's not. So if you're bleeding out, you just bleed out. There's no chance to stabilize. So you better have a party member. You're just screwed. I'm not even going to look at the example, because the example's pretty straightforward. Game mastering. It's just basic details on populating the world. Oh, wait. Here we go. Regardless of the side of the map, no world is empty. NPCs will have their own personalities. This is just a sample table that tells you what they're like. Okay. Profiles for generic NPCs. So this is what NPC stats look like. You got accuracy, agility, endurance. So you just got a range of skill values. So it's kind of like GURPS in that every enemy has to have like all of your skills. Yeah. I'm gonna look through. I'm gonna skip through, and I'm just gonna see what else is good. Yeah. It needs a lot more development, and part of the reason I'm doing this is just basically because I know the writer is gonna take a look at this, and they're probably gonna feel down about it. But it needs more work. I would. If I was given this to review as part of my main review line, I would not review it. It does not quite meet the bar for me to review. I'm just looking at I'm gonna look at the alternate traps just to see if there's any or not. I'm gonna skim through the rest of this and just see if there's anything really interesting. Okay, trap write-up is very simple. You can't go wrong with that. Simple is. So, set guidelines for setting minimum successes. That is useful. That is very useful. Skill roll mods. There's just situational modifiers. Use of magic. Last thing GMs need to decide for their campaign is how magic is used because it's a generic system. Creating NPCs. So I'm presuming this chart here is for creating NPCs. So I guess you decide based on this what dice roll to enter as a particular thing on an NPC, maybe. Alright, that's cool. Yeah, this character sheet's a mess, but kind of so is the whole system. This is a sample hex sheet. I don't even think there's much more of this. Alright, Homebrew Rules. Players gain additional experience and familiarity. They may institute rules for additional situations, and this is where you jot them down. It's a sheet for that. Stop. Do not progress to the second section of the rulebook until you have mastered use of the first section. Alright, Class 2 rules. This is basically your second issue. Players accumulated loot. This just tells you how to handle loot in the funds box. Tells you how to handle factions. This is all very basic. To compensate for new rules options, players may reallocate up to 10 skill points upon using second class rules. So if you enter... Wait, what? Okay, so this gives you more characteristics. Characters gain 6 new characteristics in Class 2 rules. 3 positive and 3 negative. But there's no additional skills, so why would you rearrange skill points unless it was just to make use of these new traits? Alright. These traits are just the same kind of level. They're the same kind of modifiers as in the first place. Don't know why you'd put them in second class, except some of them are a little bit more complex. Take Sprite in a non-magical thing. Got negative characteristics, that's cool. Crafting rules. Declare an item craft, gather required materials, perform a successful mechanics roll, expend required materials, expend necessary actions to craft. And I'm presuming actions are... like if it's long term... Yeah, this is for, like, quick crafting. So you can, like, wire stuff together very quickly using these things in the middle of a scene. But otherwise, for making armor and weapons, I'd assume that it just takes longer. Crafting rules are okay. And they give you examples of what fits into each era. Crafting rules aren't bad. I mean, they suffer the same thing as the rest of the system, but they're not bad. It just gives you sample locations. There's just guidelines to making a campaign. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that part. That part's all right. All right, give me a second. Let me read this. Vehicle type, max capacity, tiles moved, cargo. I'm not big on... Let's see. I'm not big... After any vehicles, must how to move and direct it. It requires a knowledge roll to see if they can activate it. And then when you're actually using it... activated vehicle to move number of tiles equal to its tiles move statistics. I'm presuming there's like a skill for using the thing. No, it's a knowledge roll. So, doing a vehicle is 100% knowledge rolls. And then it's just got your basic, very generic stuff, just same as the other ones, with your stats. That's all right. The vehicle rules are all right. So far, it looks like my major complaints with the rules at the very beginning, and what Malakun has pointed out are the major things, and everything else looks okay. It's just based on it's like the flaws in setup have extrapolated themselves through the rest of the book. Here's the Class 3 rules where you actually learn how to level up. Okay. You get level 1. Your experience characters gain over time, recorded through quantifiable experience points. You gain plus 5 XP for notable achievement. This gives you XP requirements. But how do you use XP? Alright. For every 100 experience the character gains, they level up. When a character levels up, they gain 2 additional skill points, 2 max health, 1 additional spell if playing with magic rules, and 2 bonus dice to assign between 2 selected skills. Bonus dice represent abilities characters picked up. Bonus die is plus d6. Unlike most bonuses, bonus die count toward the skill rolls total, even if the character fails his or her rolls. Yeah, it needs fleshing out. Yeah, it needs better edit. I will say this. The editing, it's not the worst I've seen, but yeah, it needs a lot better editing. It needs a lot better editing. I don't know if I like these bonus dice either. So these bonus dice you add as like a flat bonus every single time you make a check. So if you want to roll endurance and you had an endurance of 4, you roll a d10 and a d6. So if the d10 results in a 6, the result counts as 0 because the 6 is greater than the character's skill level 4. However, the character still keeps the result of the d6 and may compare it to the MS of a challenge to determine success or failure. So you can actually fail a challenge with the initial roll, but your bonus dice can push you over it and succeed anyway. I guess that's interesting. If the character overrolls his or her skill, no bonus for successful rolls may be applied, even if the bonus dice meets or succeeds the roll's MS. So if you fail, but your bonus dice exceeds the MS, that's it. You don't get your bonus for gear and stuff. I don't know how I feel about that, but it's better explained than the rest of the stuff. Here's the magic system. And it's very generic. Open-ended and multi-purpose. Oh, man. I feel like I'm about to look at a train wreck. Give me a second. Create a spell. Players name their spell. Select the elements used, the action taken, and the number of targets, and the maximum range, the duration, and finally, detail the result. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I'd expect of any generic spellcasting system. So you pick them like a la carte, and you build your spell like that. And I'm presuming as a spellcaster, I've used systems like this before, and I have not used them often because I don't like spell systems like this. But you pick them a la carte, and if you're playing a caster, I'm presuming you would write down 4 or 5 commonly used spells, but you can adapt them on the fly. So you just pick them a la carte. They add to the total that you need to roll, and then you cast it. And is there a limit to how many you can cast per day? I think that's up to the DM. I think that's up to the GM, because it said you basically, when the GM's creating their world, they have to create the magic system too. There is no built-in like limit on the magic. It doesn't look like. Magical combat, it's just like normal combat, except you roll a d12, so that always gives you a chance to always miss. Warfare. Yeah. Yeah, Ars Magica. Man, I played that once. And we didn't actually get to play. That's the there were a lot of games back in the day where I wanted to play, and we would make like characters and then like never get to play them. Ars Magica is one of those. I really should take a look at that one time. I've had it recommended to me multiple times. All right, so they got mass combat. I'm not even going to look at the mass combat rules. I'm just going to note that they have mass combat rules in here, which is not something you see in every single role-playing game anymore, especially generic ones. It seems like there's an attempt to cram too much into these 56 pages. Yeah. Yeah, man. I was looking through some of my old books. I found a book, like I found an old 3-ring binder that had 20 characters. And these were in GURPS 3rd edition, Palladium, some storyteller type White Wolf stuff. I had like 30 characters that had been completed and either never played or only played once. That was back in the day. That's why nowadays, whenever I play a game, I always end up playing D&D or something similar, or Castles and Crusades, because it's like by the time I would love to play. Well, where is it? Oh, screw it. I would love to play GURPS. I would love to play more of these games that I have. But by the time my group makes their characters, it's like, because it's not a system they're familiar with. They get they get discouraged, and then I end up not having a second follow-up. Yeah. And a lot of the stuff I thought I'd thrown out. So thanks to our backers, and this will be the backer page. So what do I think about this? I'm inclined to agree. It needs more cook time. It needs more editing. It needs more playtesting. It needs playtesting, editing, and the writing. Like, from what I read, in terms of the writing, from what I read, the parts that do not describe the rules, the writing is fine. I didn't read them out loud, but I was browsing. I was like speed reading through some of the example play. That writing is fine. The problem with the writing and the editing is mostly the specific explanation of the rules. And that is the part that you don't want to be in need of editing. The rules need play testing. They need adjustments. You need to fix the min-maxing problem. This is like just summary. It's not terrible. It's not terrible, but it's not quite ready for prime time. I would go back, revise stuff. I would either go back and revise stuff and expand on some stuff and maybe adjust the core mechanic a little bit, or as mentioned, make like a supplement for something else. Take a look at because there's so many generic games now available. There's so many generic games now available. Oh man, I would love to run a game. I would love to play in a GURPS thing. Yeah, rules descriptions are always the most difficult to write. I say a lot of that, but I haven't written anything. I review all these RPGs. I have not written one. Yeah, I need to plug away at it. Don't get discouraged. Just take this as, the Kickstarter was successful already. They weren't asking for much. They were asking for like $500, and they got like 600 so far. So, if that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing. But you're gonna want to get in on that editing. It's not a terrible first attempt, but it does need work. And I'm saying that as somebody who has not written one. I've been asked. Somebody's asked me to write stuff. Man, I got asked. Yeah, I need to. I haven't written one because it's difficult. You got my mad respect for writing that many books. Oh man, I've written novels, but I haven't written rule stuff. And I feel like learning GURPS now made you through reading Dungeon Fantasy. Dungeon Fantasy is excellent. I did a review of it a while back. I would love to run more Dungeon Fantasy. I would love to run more Dungeon Fantasy. I would love to run a lot of stuff, but I just don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time to make videos. I don't have time to make... I don't have time to play games that I I got work to do. I got a set to build. I'm running 2 different games right now. No, wait, strike that. I'm running 3 different games right now. I'm running a 2 5th edition game. No, wait. I'm running a 5th edition game for my Tuesday players. I'm running a 5th edition game twice a month for my patrons and Subscribe Star people. And I'm running an AD&D 2nd edition game for my patrons and Subscribe Star people. And I just got a request to run another like introductory style role-playing game for people who have never played Dungeons and Dragons or who have only played once or twice years ago, from some of my friends from IRC. So yeah, I've got a full plate, man. Yeah, GURPS is an excellent system. I played GURPS back in the 3rd edition stuff, and I just recently got into the 4th edition stuff. It's excellent. Yeah. Oh yeah, 2nd edition AD&D. Yeah, it's great, man. My 2nd edition AD&D game. That's one I may actually like write up and try to put an adventure together for, and like try my hand at adventure publishing. I'm just a critic. I review video games and I review tabletop games. So I'm kind of like the like those who do, those who can't teach, those who can't even teach, review. So that's where I'm at on those. But my 2nd edition game for my patrons, I'm probably going to try and write up into like a adventure or something and maybe convert it to OSR and then put it up somewhere. Dark urban fantasy. That sounds neat. Yeah, one of the players in my Tuesday game writes urban fantasy, but he writes like not like an adventure, but like novels. He's written in short stories. He's written. He's got a book out on Amazon. I can't for the life of me remember it, and I've mentioned it before. It's like it stars this vampire detective. Yeah, and it's like this. It's like I can do reviews on a constant basis, but I'm already. Oh man, thank you so much. You mentioned grapple rules being an identifier of overall system quality. What is your current favorite grapple rules system and why? Thanks, been subscribed for a while now. First of all, thank you very much for both the super chat and for being subscribed. I really appreciate it. Grapple, my favorite grapple rules. I gotta admit, right now I'm enjoying the more freeform. I'm enjoying the more freeform grapple rules from 5th edition, which are extremely basic. It's just like grab and you're going. But mostly because it plays quickly, not because of any particular mechanical decency on that. And the reason I like that is because I can very quickly have a monster or something grapple with a PC without busting out all kinds of tables. And you would be surprised how shocked a group of player characters are when one of their frontliners gets grappled and then tugged out of the front line and pushed into the back and surrounded. That just blows their mind, because it turns this very strategic type, you got your frontliners, then your healers, then your ranged or whatever, into oh my god, one of our frontliners just got grabbed and dragged into the back. And even if they're not having damage done to them, just the sheer panic on my players' faces when that happens is great. But the only reason I like the 5th edition the 5th edition grappling rules is because it's simple. In terms of mechanics, I liked the 3rd edition. I liked the 3rd edition and Pathfinder grapple rules for the mechanical consequences, but I did not like running them. I did not like running the grapple rules on that. It's like, I love the fact that you could like disable a caster with grappling in those systems, but I hated actually using them. So yeah, my favorite right now is 5th edition. My favorite from a mechanic standpoint was 3.x/Pathfinder. And even though the combat system is 2nd edition is currently, well, not the combat system, just 2nd edition in general is currently my preferred go-to old school type thing. And in GURPS, the grapple system in GURPS is also relatively good. And the reason being is because it's very similar to the rest of the skill system in GURPS. So it's got a high degree of internal consistency. I like the GURPS one too. But yeah, I've seen grappling systems that look like a damn spider web. Yeah. So there's my answer to that. I tried to do reviews, but couldn't do that on a constant basis. I need to do more reviews. I actually don't have a problem with reviews because a lot of my reviews are, yeah, if you use all of the GURPS rules, it becomes way complex. But I use Dungeon Fantasy when I do GURPS. So, and that's kind of stripped down. Yeah. Couldn't do that on a consistent basis. I do one, well, right now I've finished my Indie Game Friday, but I hammer out one like independent game review, computer game review a week. And it's very formulaic. My reviews are extremely formulaic right now. If it's a computer game, I will go over the plot, not the whole plot, but just enough to get you into it. Then take a look at the mechanics of the game, then the presentation of the game, and then give my assessment of all of it. My reviews for tabletop gaming, and I've got 2 more coming out right now. I need to do more of them, but it takes me about 2 to 3 times longer to write a review for a tabletop game than it does for a computer game, just because I've got more experience with the computer game stuff. If you look back at my reviews for tabletop gaming have been evolving, shall we say. And but for tabletop gaming, I give a systems a quick rundown of the system of like the contents of the book. And then I give my analysis of particular parts of the system in terms of whether it's, what kind of thing it can do. And then my thoughts in general. So it's very, very my reviews have become very formulaic, but I'm actually enjoying that because hopefully I'll be able to do more of them. As I said, I've got 2 more reviews coming out, this time for Frenzy Kitty Games. I've got a review for... They gave me 3 games to review, but I'm only going to review 2 of them. I am reviewing, and they will be out. I've got them already written and everything. And I've got the audio recorded. I just need to sync the audio with, like, the PDF images. But I'm going to be reviewing... Oh, Jesus. Where's my download here? They gave me Something Wicked, which is like a pulp horror one. Yeah, I love how scalable GURPS is. I'm going to review Static Dawn. And those are rules light, and I use that advisedly because those 2 systems verge from the rules light almost to the rules non-existent. And then Children of the Fall, which goes off the deep end and doesn't even require a GM and is just like a player narrative thing. I'm not going to review Children of the Fall because that system, that storytelling system, at that point, it's like, how do you review something that's basically like storytelling with a couple dice rolled in, I can't really do that justice, but I will do the other 2. And then I'm going to do a review of Castle Amber from Goodman Games, which I'm still reading through, and it takes me like a week to read through a book because I'm not great at that. Your GURPS game has an Unseelie of the Winter Court, a dude from the future, a godling, and a mage all in the same system. And yeah, that's the great part about GURPS, man. Is because you can mix all that stuff with very, very little effort. I like generic systems in theory. That having been said, I only really like a couple. I don't even know I'm wearing this headset. Probably because I was recording Let's Plays all day and I just left them on. Like I get so used to the headset that I don't even remember it's on until until I bump into it. Yeah, that's one thing. I do like generic role-playing games in general. That sounds awesome, man. Men in Black meets Dresden Files. Didn't they have like a Men in Black ripoff that they wanted to be like that, but it never turned into never took off? Had what is it, Jeff Brooks or whatever in it? Oh man, but I love generic systems, but the problem is that like given the choice, like in genres, like my favorite genres are like medieval fantasy, low fantasy medieval, and then gothic horror. So my problem with like generic role-playing games, I love them, but it's like it's like if I'm just gonna run a dungeon crawl, then why am I not running D&D? It's that's why I love Dungeon Fantasy, is because it lets me play another system that's focused on that. I love these open generic stuff, but I'm boring, man. I am completely boring. Special Unit 2. I need to check some of this stuff out, man. But yeah, I'm completely boring. I would run more of these off the wall systems, but but it's like if I'm just gonna run something, I'm just gonna run like if I'm gonna run, a dungeon crawl with a dragon in it, I might as well just run D&D. Except or OSR stuff now because I prefer OSR. Yeah. Oh man, I'm probably gonna wrap up here. Again, thank you for the super chat. Thank you all for the support. I'm not gonna do. Give me a sec. My Indie Game Friday is done for the done. Yeah, OSR systems are great. My Indie Game Friday is done for the year. So depending on how far I get with more, I'm gonna record. I'm trying to get ahead of the game on my Let's Plays. Because I know pretty much if you're watching these, you're probably watching for tabletop. But I'm going to try and get ahead on my Let's Plays tomorrow. And then I will get those 2 reviews I've been talking about forever out. But they may not be live until Saturday or until next week, which is probably Tuesday or something next week. Tuesday or Wednesday next week. And I want to do more tabletop reviews. Yeah. You wrote if you've written a bunch of rules things and you want me to review something, just drop me a line sometime. Drop me a list of what I should review. If you want me to take a look. I don't have the biggest in terms of the biggest following for that. But, hey, these videos regularly get about 100 or 200 views by the time. Some of them get close to 1,000 views over the course of their stuff. So it's an evergreen product. If you've got products that you'd like me to take a look at, just go ahead and drop me a link. You can contact me through. Well, I've got my business inquiry stuff on my channel, so you can contact me on that. I would say drop me a line on Twitter and Facebook, but I don't check those anymore. And here comes it. I'm on Parler. I'm on Parler. See, and I'm more liable to check that. I don't check that every day, but I'm more liable to check that than I am Facebook or Twitter. I haven't checked Twitter in like 2 years. I checked Facebook like a month ago because I was looking to make sure somebody I knew hadn't passed away. So I finally logged into Facebook. But But yeah, if you got review suggestions, let me know. I do have a backlog, but I'll try and get to them. All right, I'm gonna wrap up here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for your continued support. I'm gonna try and get more videos out. I'm gonna try and get more streams out. Be they, yeah, man. Twitter turned to garbage, man. Yeah, I will try to get more reviews out. I will try. I've got some stuff. I got a backlog of that stuff I got to get through. I'll try to do more streams, but that's the best I can do. Thank you for your continued support. Anyway, you guys take care, and goodbye.